Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand of the company Horns Vodin, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Matthias Nordvig.
Hello, everybody. This time we don't have any guests. We are just talking about scary Viking stuff.
I know our guest bailed on us last minute.
Yeah, but I was trying to be cool about that. So
oh no, they didn't. It was actually us. We decided that they weren't the right fit, and no, we didn't. I think it was just a clash of timings that didn't work.
That's how it goes sometimes.
They will be on, but it is spooky season, so we decided that we're going to look at some spooky stories or urban legends from...
Correction. It is spooky season for you Anglophones. Now, for a Dane like me, it's just potatoes picking season.
I mean...
we're not running around being scared about anything. We're just like...
It depends what goes on in those potato fields.
Well...
Who knows? After last week's episode with the sheep, who knows? It could be spooky. No, we're going to have fun. I enjoy these ways, just me and you. I've got my whiskey. I've got some water to keep me hydrated as well. We're going to look at some funky stories. I think it's going to be good fun.
Yes, it will.
I hope. We're putting something together anyway. We're trying our best.
We're going to hear about Bubba the Dane, I guess.
I think you mean Hubba the Dane.
Hubba. Oh, right. Yeah, Hubba.
Apparently. Come on now. Come on. Okay, so we had to look for some spooky... I mean, I didn't know what was going to come up when I put spooky Viking stories into Google. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but at least I found one from the Devon Live anyway. So we're going to start with that, and then we're going to look at the top 10 scary Viking urban legends after. So do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
I'll let you read it, then I can pick it apart.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that, but okay, I'll read it. Let me have a little sip of water just to so I don't mess it up. Which is obviously always best to drink. Oh, Usher's back.
Oh, nice.
For those who've been missing him, he's been upstairs for a while, literally next to the bed, actually, for longer than he should have been. For about 2 months, 3 months. Since Midgardsploy, he's been sat next to the bed, looking at me as I sleep. So now he's... I know. So now he's back behind me. He's getting a little bit glare, so you can't quite see him, but he's there. He's staring. All right. So the first scary story, I guess, is how Viking ghosts from the first Battle of Britain still haunt Bloody Corner. So I guess Bloody Corner is a place in Devon. So visitors to North Devon beaches claim on clear nights they can hear battle noises and shadows of fighting men as the Bloody Corner battle haunts Appledore. Viking raids were a great threat to Devon villagers during the reign of Alfred the Great. Ancient records of Northam, not Northman, Northam. Do you think that's any link? It says North, like North Ham. I don't know.
Northam
is. Northam, yeah.
Ham is a piece of a pig, but also it's an old word for, dwelling. It's the same as the Old Norse Heimer, which you get in multiple place names. So yeah, it's pretty common. You also have it in the rest of Scandinavia.
Okay, so ancient records from Northam exist around the 10th and 11th century, and they retell the story of a battle with Hubba the Dane at Bloody Corner in the 9th century. Okay, so you first took issue with the name Hubba.
Yeah, I mean, so the reference here has got to be the Battle of Chinwit in 878, right? Where Uppa, not Hubba or Bubba, but Uppa.
or Hubba Bubba, which was a chocolate, which was a popular chewing gum.
Yes, I remember that chewing gum. That was like one of the big things of my childhood, because you couldn't get it in Greenland. So like it was only something you could get when you like left the country and got like to Denmark or something like that.
I'm surprised
like
you have like whale fat chewing gum.
Well, yeah, that's that.
Chewing a little bit of the blubber.
the blubber.
Okay. Should have been Greenland's spin-off.
Bubba Blubber the Dane. He's one of Ragnar Lothbrok's sons, right?
Of course.
He's an actual historical figure. And
so is this the one that's in Vikings, as in Ubba?
Yes, he is. He's the guy from Vikings. Yes,
not the eldest one after Björn, I think.
I don't remember, but it sounds about right.
I think he was the eldest one of the four that came with the lady that wasn't Lagertha, that no one cares about because it's not Lagertha. That one,
right? Yes. Okay. So I mean, obviously, Ragnar Lothbrok himself is a very complicated historical figure. Some scholars have said, "Oh, this dude never existed," but I don't think that that's true. But we do know that his sons, the sons of Lothbrok, they did exist because they were the ones fighting everybody in England. And this is one of the occasions on which this happened, where Uppa...
Without going too far off track, and I know we did an episode on Ragnar way back. It was like one of the first couple of episodes we did, so we probably should redo that. Do you think that they were his actual sons, or just people claiming the title of being the son of Ragnar just because it, the value it has, especially when going raiding?
I think it's reasonable to assume that they were his actual sons, and that he was a Viking warlord who invaded Paris, because that's a well-described event as well. Now, the fact that all his sons are referred to as Danes then sort of discount this prevailing narrative that he came from Norway.
Look at you just trying to steal the legends.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys, but it is a well-established fact based on genetics that those Scandinavians who were messing around in the Danelaw area, known as Danes by the English, generally came from the Danish area. Therefore, we may also presume that these guys and Hubba also came from that area.
Only where they've got Hubba from.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Unless they've heard it and just... Because sometimes with these names, you say names sometimes, and I'm like, I want to Google this later, and you don't want to see the collection of consonants and vowels that come together, because they're not like anything that should be put together.
No, I mean, I guess you do have like so. The name Uppa is known from runic inscriptions and from Saxo's history of the Danes, but Saxo spells it Offa instead. So there are sort of like multiple sort of like versions of that name. And
there's not one set one anyway.
No. I mean, like, we don't really know how they pronounced it. So we just know it wasn't Bubba. I like Bubba better.
Bubba sounds like a deep South Viking, like
shrimp
American
fisher.
Viking. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
They'd be like a deep South shrimp fishing Viking. Now that was a mouthful to say.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So tradition says he landed at what is now Boat Hyde meaning a cove, with a fleet of more than ships. With a fleet of of more than ships. I don't know what that means, but I mean, probably sums up why he's called Hubba as well. And marched to attack the hill fort at Kenwith. The legend is that they were defeated by Odun, Odun, Earl of Devon.
No, that was the elderman named Otta. So
I'm starting to feel like this article has not been well researched.
It kind of feels like it, just a bit.
I feel like maybe someone's not done the proper research.
They didn't read Asser's account properly, I guess.
Okay, no, I mean I don't suppose it would. This is like a throwaway part of a top 10 article of like scary things. So I don't think they had the budget to really go into it. Okay, so the legend is that they were defeated by Odun, Earl of Devon. Hubba and 1,000 of his men were said to have been killed. The men were burned at Bonehill, or Bunhill, was the old name of a burial ground, and Hubba was burned in a cairn. Do we know what a cairn is? CAIRN?
Yeah, I mean it's a heap of stones usually.
Oh, okay.
Some kind of landmark.
Okay. The perfect thing to set someone on fire in. Stones.
Mm-hmm. I guess so.
Okay, and Hubba was buried in a cairn in the area known as Hubbastone. So maybe there is a stone tablet at Bloody Corner in Northam, erected by Charles Chappell, which reads, "Stop, stranger, stop. Near this spot lies buried King Hubba the Dane, who was slain in a bloody retreat by King Alfred the Great." Sounds quite real to me. There's a stone.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing I assume Charles Chappell must have been the one who's responsible for Hubba, if he's erected this stone on the hill and called him Hubba.
Well, I mean, yeah, so this is at the same time where Alfred the Great is sitting with his ass in deep water in the marshes in Somerset, right? So the defeat of these Vikings came sort of like as a opportune time, so to speak, to be like, fuck yeah, we're actually having some success in getting them out of there, and then it makes perfect sense that people would be making up a bunch of folk tales about it and calling him Hubba instead of Uppa, and those kinds of things. So yeah, like
maybe he was a really sexy Viking and everyone's called him Hubba Hubba.
Yeah, I think so. Hubba Hubba. Right. And it's also perfectly in line with folk traditions that you have some kind of like stone pile over here, and then you're like, and look, this is exactly where that guy was buried or burnt.
Well, that makes sense. That takes us on to the next part of it says Nick Arnold, author of a children's book series, says he solved the 1,200-year-old mystery and located the site of one of the most important conflicts in Britain. The famous battle in 1878 saw the rampaging. That's the right word, isn't it? Rampaging Viking armies overrunning the country except for Devon and Cornwall. England's ruler, King Alfred the Great, had gone into hiding, and the last of the Saxon soldiers took refuge in a fortress named, what the fuck's this word? Sinwit or Kinwit?
Yeah.
C-Y-N.
Chinwit?
Yeah, Chinwit.
I think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The stronghold. This is why I didn't want to read it.
Or Kinwit.
The stronghold was surrounded and besieged by the 1,200-strong Viking force. But according to historical accounts, the English made a final charge. In a last-ditch act of defiance, the remaining English stormed from the fortress and overcame their invaders. Banished them from the country forever. Is that right?
Okay. No.
Okay, from the count. No, because they put country, but I assume maybe they mean county. Because this was in
No,
1878.
because this is based off of Asser's account of the
Okay.
history of Alfred the Great. He was Alfred the Great's propagandist, right? He was the quote unquote biographer of Alfred the
Hype
Great.
man.
Yes. So obviously, they're going to represent this victory as like we finally got rid of them, and Alfred the Great unified all of England, and blah blah blah. I was like, no, that's not really what happened, guys. Like you ceded half of the country to Danes and Scandinavians in general, and called it the Dane Law. It's not exactly a win.
No, especially when it says
and,
banishing them from the country forever. Just feels
exactly.
like it's not true.
But this is a glorified account, right? And so, I mean, there are like multiple, Viking attacks and raids and presence of Vikings in different locations in the English general countryside afterwards. But this is sort of the end of the this great incursion that happens, right? The great heathen army that is rampaging through the countryside of England in the middle of the 800s.
Okay, so it says the clash has been dubbed the First Battle of Britain, but the site of the fortress became lost, and all attempts to definitively identify it have failed. For 300 years, historians have speculated its location, but Nick claims they were looking in the wrong place and says he has located the remains of the fort and battlefield at Castle Hill near Beeford because he had a book to sell. That part's not in there, but I feel like that might be the reason.
That does sound like the reason. Well, I'm glad that Nick could solve this mystery for us all 1,200 years after it happened.
I don't know about Mick, but I think Nick did quite well. He was called Nick.
I called him Nick.
I thought you called him Mick.
No, I didn't. I called him Nick.
I apologize then. Okay,
that's so right.
That article turned out not to be scary at all. Apparently, some ghosts from a battle on a beach. Don't know why they. I don't know why they plugged that as a scary story. They only talked about the only mention of ghosts was like the first line where it's like some people say they see ghosts on the beach. And they didn't mention it again.
See, potato picking season. It's not scary at all.
Well, I hope
these were Danes, right?
All right. Well, I hope the next ones do as well. There's some of these I haven't heard of, and I purposefully not read this, not because I'm being lazy, but I like reading them. And then, so if that wasn't number 10, that was just a different article I thought we'd do before we got to the list. It was amuse bouche. That's the right thing, isn't it?
I don't.
Amuse bouche is a starter. Don't you have an amuse bouche?
A moose bush?
Look, I
don't want to know what's going on.
You've got to understand that my accent is butchering the French here, but an amuse bouche is definitely something that you eat before.
You'll eat a
dinner.
Moose bush.
Someone back me up here. All right, let me say it in French.
Dan, last time it was like, romantic relationships with goats, and now you're talking about eating out a moose. Like, what's going on, man?
I can't believe nobody in the chat has come to my defense yet, because I know I'm not crazy about this. And a moose bouche. It's a thing. It is a thing.
Moose bush.
All right. So the next is the top 10 scary Viking urban legends.
Ooh.
So these ones,
because Vikings are known for their, urbanness, right?
these ones are terrifying. Hold on to your hat. Okay, so number 10 is one that we all know and have heard of, is the Blood Eagle.
Oh, right, that one. Yes. Let's skip that one.
Oh, no. Okay. So it says, so this one says it's starting off with, I'm going to paraphrase and skip through. This one says they're starting with something pretty horrific. The Blood Eagle was an ancient Viking torture method, usually saved for their worst enemies. Some historians believe it to be so brutal it can't even have been real.
I mean, that's not why they don't believe that it was real.
Because he's too brutal.
This is too much, man.
The blood eagle involved carving an eagle onto the back of the person and then prying his back open by detaching his ribs from their backbone and then, wait for it, pulling their lungs through the opening. The lungs would then be spread over the ribs and on the outside, so they look like the wings, hence the name blood eagle. To make things even worse, the open wound and organs would then have salt rubbed on them, causing excruciating pain if they hadn't already blacked out by then. The blood eagle was used
already blacked out.
Well, the blood eagle was used as a torturous revenge and also as an offering to the Viking god Odin.
Oh, right, yeah, of course.
So, I mean, we don't have to go into it too deep. We did a full episode on it with Luke John Murphy, where I think we pretty put it to bed that it's probably not real.
Well, I mean, I think what Luke argued is that if it's real, then, the torture part of it all would be done as soon as you open the chest cavity, because nobody can breathe under those circumstances. So you're suffocating and dying pretty much immediately. And you would also probably be, already unconscious due to the amount of blood that you lost, just like in the process of cutting. So if it were something that actually took place, then it was more for the spectators than for the person who was undergoing the torture.
Yeah, for sure. You would, like you say, as soon as the chest cavity is pierced, you'd suffocate. So let alone the amount of time
to breathe in there.
Yeah. So yeah, but people still think this is real. And this is one that people will die on the hill of, or Viking Bros will die on their hill of this being real. Because let's face it, it is, I mean, the article's right. It is a scary Viking urban legend because it's not real. And it is quite terrifying if it was.
I mean, I think drawn and quartered is scarier.
Oh, it's much worse.
I mean, they keep you alive so that you can watch your own genitals be thrown on a fire, right? Like, that's pretty creepy.
There's a really good podcast by Dan Carlin. I think it's Dan Carlin, called Pain for Entertainment, and he goes through all the old torture methods, and some are the French. Ooh, they were fuckers. They were nasty. Yeah.
And the English.
But he said there was public entertainment, so people came and watched. It was, like sitting down and watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay, this one I've never heard of, and I probably can't even pronounce it. So I hope you know what it is. The Nukalave.
Right. Yeah, I was reading. I was like, never heard of it, man. Okay. Never heard of it.
So you've never heard of it?
Oh no.
So how would you pronounce it?
I don't know, man.
Oh, okay. So I'm just
like this sounds like something Scottish.
Yes, okay. That's what it says.
It also says this is something Scottish. So I'm like wondering where's the Viking connection.
Okay, let me read it first, and then you can tell us whether you think there's any truth in it. So when the Vikings inhabited Scotland's Orkney Islands, so that I guess that's where it comes in. They told stories of a hideous creature known as the Nukalave. I'm going to go with Nukalave. They are horses like demons. Their bodies are like skinless horses, and on their back is the torso of a human rider, nothing else, just a skinless torso hanging on there. Two arms hang by the side of the torso. He must have strong leg muscles then. If he's not holding any reins, he's just got his arms by his side whilst riding the horse. So two arms hang by the side of the torso that are so long they can touch the ground. The horse mouth is huge. The horse mouth is huge, gaping, and exudes a toxic vapor that kills any crops nearby. Its single giant eye burns like a flame. It would spread disease and attack people on sight.
I fucking love this.
I know.
I wanted to be Viking now.
The islanders of Orkney were so scared of the demon that they would not speak his name without immediately saying a prayer. Because he has no skin, people said that you could see black blood coursing through his yellow veins. On the pale but powerful muscles can be seen pulsating all over. I mean, sounds cool.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. I mean, okay, so there's a couple of things we can note here. Demon horses are common in Northwestern Europe. Like you can find them in Scandinavia too. Sometimes Nøkka shows up as a demonic horse. So yeah, and then you have like a bunch of folk tales too about like in Norway we get a couple of folk tales about the Høgbui, so the dead people who live in the mounds. They can make you they can like throw a drinking horn after you, and if it hits the horse then the skin will melt off.
Drinking horns available at hornsofodin.com.
and then of course you also have in like the Swedish Skogsrå, which is not a horse, but the theme of the giant mouth is there, right? So like the Skogsrå, when you're hanging out in your little cabin out in the woods, usually because you're burning coal at night, then the Skogsrå will show up at your cabin door, and then it'll like stand in the opening of the door with like this giant mouth that goes from top to bottom, and then it'll ask you, "What's your name?" And then if you tell them, then you're gonna get swallowed, but you never do that because you're a smart Christian Swedish dude in the woods.
What a trick!
Right?
the trick in it. I mean, I feel like we should take a second to visualize this Nukalave, because he's a horse with no skin, black blood running through its yellow veins. It's got one giant eye. It's on fire. It's got a massive gaping mouth that is seeping a toxic vapor, and a dude on his back who's just got really long arms dragging on the ground. It's
fucking metal, man. I love it.
Sophie, I know you like to draw demons. Please draw the Nukalave.
Yes,
so we can
please.
Pop it up on our Instagram. Okay, number 8. And I don't know. So it's human sacrifice. But again, this guy obviously clearly thinks that the Nukalave is a real thing, because he says for the Vikings, the number 9, so that's referring to the 9th on the list, the Nukalave, was very important. It appeared throughout their religion and stories.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
You've never heard of it, but okay. It was deemed so important that the Vikings were said to carry out human sacrifices because of it.
No.
Okay, that answered that. In 1072, the German monk Adam of Bremen visited a Viking temple in Sweden and found that they met every... I mean, this is what you hear, for, to be fair. Okay, so what's wrong with that sentence?
Well, he never went to Sweden. He did spend time in Denmark. That's where he heard a bunch of stories about Sweden, primarily from the Danish king, actually. So, that does give some credence to his account. But he never went there himself.
Okay, fair enough. So he didn't visit a temple in Sweden, and found that they met every 9 years to ensure the goodwill of the gods. 9 males of all kinds of living creatures were sacrificed. Dogs, horses, and humans were hung from trees in the temple's sacred groves. This would go on for 9 days. Every day 9, new males were killed. This would result in 81 gruesome sacrifices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam Bremen says 72 because doesn't go on for 9 days.
Okay.
That's a detail. Yeah. That
But the
otherwise.
idea is real that they sacrificed. So, and it was just males.
One, did human sacrifices occur in the Viking Age? Yeah. Two, was Uppsala a location for a lot of ritual activity in the Viking Age? Absolutely. There's a similar story about Hledra in Denmark by Tidmar of Merseburg. He describes a similar style of ritual there. And it's very likely that those kinds of rituals took place in different locations in Scandinavia. And
sounds like a fucked up Noah's Ark. Just like one of
that is
each.
A fucked up Noah's Ark.
Like one of each animal, but only the males, and just hang them from a tree.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in a way that is a pretty fucked up Noah's Ark. Yeah, and like, but those weren't the only instances where people sacrifice people. Like there are plenty of situations where humans were sacrificed. Like just to look at the Oseberg ship, and there's presumably one of the people in that burial was sacrificed, and we see that in a bunch of other graves as well. Usually, it was because somebody needed to bring somebody with them to the underworld. But yeah, no, human sacrifice is a pretty common theme in human history in general, and
it's quite terrifying.
Yeah,
if you're the one being sacrificed.
Well, yeah, I mean, but also I guess it has like a regulatory function in that regard. Like, maybe those people sacrificed were people who had like done something transgressive. In some cases, at least. That's one of the prevailing theories about the bog bodies that we have in Northwestern Europe, right? So, like, that they were, criminals who were sacrificed. But we don't actually know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the ritual killing of humans is a pretty standard human phenomenon, right? And it's still occurring to this day in countries like this one that I'm living in that have punitive executions. That's also ritual killing. Now we just pretend that it has a moral reason and that it's like perfectly normal and also totally like clinical and medical and all that stuff. And it's just like, no.
Yeah,
it's ritual killing, and that's what it is. That's what humans do.
I mean, and human sacrifice makes sense particularly when you think of like ancient peoples. No, because obviously it makes sense, Dan? because it's the highest offering that you can give. It's kind of
it's a way to get rid of people you don't want around.
All that. Okay, I know you're short on time because you have to take baby Björn to the doctor.
Yes.
So I'm going to skip through a couple of these just because we've done full episodes on them and people can go. So the next one is murder creation. So that's number 7. So that's the creation myth where basically Ymir gets slaughtered to make the world. We've done a full episode on that. I think it was with Ed. We did the creation myth.
Yeah. Well, we definitely talked about it, and that again is also a pretty standard story. Like, you get that in multiple cultures around the world, so not such of a big deal.
It is a pretty gruesome thing to kill a giant and make a world out of him. So
I don't know, like
list.
It's kind of metal to be living in a corpse.
Oh, yeah. All I could think of was, I don't know if you've seen the movie Freddy Got Fingered, where if you haven't seen the movie, first of all, that sounds like a porno. It's not. I promise you it's not. It's an old Tom Green movie And he climbs in sort of roadkill moves, and that's all I could think. That's all I could think of was Tom Green climbing in the moose.
Rob Roy does the same thing, right? With Liam Neeson.
Okay.
Yeah, he also that's the way to stay warm on cold nights.
Of course, yeah. You've got to do what you got to do. The things I do to stay warm, Mateus. Those sheep.
Oh man, I don't want to know. That moose too.
Number 6, the Draugr. Obviously, we did.
Yes.
We did that. Last year's Halloween special was all about that. So you can just pop back over there and listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 5, the Mare. Have you ever had sleep paralysis before? You wake up in the middle of the night, you can't move, and you have a feeling of some dark presence nearby. The Vikings would say that you've been visited by the Mare. This is actually where English gets the word nightmare from. The Mare is an evil female spirit who sits on the top of you whilst you're asleep. Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. While you're unable to move, she then drags the life out of you. Legend says the Mare can slip through the tiniest cracks in the walls or floors like sand or smoke, only to re-emerge and terrorize the victim. If the person is unable to break free from the Mare, they're slowly smothered to death.
That's a great story. No, it is real in the sense that these are folk tales, not the stuff about like slipping through the cracks and all that stuff. But we do have Scandinavian folk tales about the nightmare. In Danish, for instance, the word for nightmare translates to mare riding. So there you go. Now, there is a tradition, an older tradition that exists in the medieval period and possibly also has its roots in the Viking Age, where we see this is the confluence of the idea of people being able to take on the shape of animals, as like a standard phenomenon in pre-Christian religion. And that then becomes mixed with post-conversion ideas of witchcraft. And that's how you get, for instance, a story about, I think is it Domaldi? It's one of those legendary kings of the Ingla dynasty who gets trampled by a mare, which is a witch that has taken the form of a mare. There is like a consistency of ideas there, but the stories that sort of like form the basis of that right there, they are not from the Viking Age. They are from Scandinavian folklore that is later. That doesn't preclude that they might have been present back then too. Like, well, we just really can't say.
I mean, she does sound quite terrifying. I've never had sleep paralysis, but it scares the fucking life out of me. I can't imagine how bad that must be.
Yeah, I'd get freaked out too.
A friend of mine has it, and he says sometimes he just lays there and like he's looking at his fiance, like he can move his eyes, and he's just like hoping she notices him and is like, wake me up. They wake me up, and he just can't fucking move, and it's terrifying.
That is terrifying. That's more terrifying than the blood eagle.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Okay, number 4 is
or the knuckleweed horse or whatever it's called.
Oh no, that's fucking. I'm having nightmares about that. Number 4 is the troll. Obviously, we covered that in the last episode with Rich. Again, this just falls into stereotypes. The troll comes directly from Viking mythology. They are large, brutish, and often evil creatures who would never think twice about crushing a human on sight. Luckily, they were renowned for their stupidity, and stories of Vikings defeating them often involved outsmarting their dim wits. Obviously, Rich shit all over that last week and kind of set the story straight on that. Mm-hmm. Number 3 is Ragnarok. Again, we've discussed that in length in a bunch of other episodes.
Yeah. And also, I
Um,
don't know how scary that is. Like, it's just the
I think
world
in part,
ending.
like in its own parts, it's. I mean, a ship made of nails is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, but it's
I,
less terrifying when the world is ending. Like you know, a
you know how many
component.
fingernails you would need to make a fucking ship?
Yes, but think about this. Like a component of being terrified, right, is the chance and possibility to survive the situation. Now, if the world is ending anyway, why the
Okay.
fuck be terrified?
Yeah, why are you
Huh?
fighting? Just don't fight.
Yeah, just
Just
have a
sit down and
beer.
enjoy it. Just sit on a hill and watch the world go. Okay, I think we've spoken a little bit about this before. I don't know how much you want because I do want to get to the last one. This is number 2, and it's the Kraken. I feel like we've spoken a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about it before, and it's one that I kind of was surprised when I found out that it came solely from originated in Viking mythology or Nordic mythology. Ooh, this article's got me speaking like a little Viking bro in Nordic mythology. Okay, so it says this is a legendary sea monster that struck fear into the hearts of the seafaring Vikings. They believe the Kraken lived off the shores of Norway and Greenland. Most of the time, they lived in the sunken depths of the ocean, but occasionally they visited the surface to wreak havoc on Viking ships. The giant octopus-like creature was said to be up to 500 foot wide and with 900-foot tentacles, and can weigh up to 400 tons. That's a big fucking octopus. They would attack ships by wrapping their tentacles around the ship's hull and capsizing it. The crew would be killed by drowning or eaten by the monster. Yeah, that's all they say about it.
Yes. Okay. Well, there, the idea of that sea monster we definitely have mentioned both in Konungs Skuggsjá and Örvaots Saga, if I remember correctly. So a couple of Old Norse sources, right? Konungs Skuggsjá is this didactic work telling us everything that we need to know if we're going to be king of Norway, and that includes a lot of like geography and zoology and cryptozoology, I guess. And then there's a mention of this this creature in Örvaots Saga, if I remember correctly. Now, the sort of like confluence with the Kraken and all that stuff, it seems to actually originate with the Dano-Norwegian colonizer of Greenland, hence Eel, who sort of like in his descriptions of Greenland, give like descriptions of like these sea monsters that exist out there, and compares them to what he knows from previous traditions. So the stuff from Iceland, for instance, and Konungs Skuggsjá and so on. So yeah, that's sort of like a long-standing Nordic tradition, and I would say that obviously these ideas of some kind of sea monster, they also go back to the story about the Miðgarðsormur or Jörmungandr, the great serpent in the ocean. And is it a squid? Is it a serpent? Like, you can make your own decisions on that.
I always thought the Kraken was Greek mythology. I don't know why. It's just one that I always assumed.
I mean, there is, on Crete, a lot of squid stuff going on, especially after the Santorini eruption. They got like they all have happy dolphins before the eruption in Santorini, and then after that, it's like demonic squids on everything. So they definitely got freaked out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and also
one.
like let's not discount the fact that are giant ass squids out there. So, it's
Mhm.
not at all impossible that people have seen those and maybe even had an encounter with one in some way or other. So,
Yeah, don't we
yeah, that'd
only
freak me
see
out too.
giants? Don't we only see giant squids when they're dead? Is that a real thing?
That's usually when they
Do we?
are, yeah, sort of like recorded, right? They
Yeah, I
they
don't think
wash
we've
up on a beach somewhere.
mhm.
So, but
And we
they are giant, like so.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one, number
Okay.
one on the list is the Pester. You've heard of the Black Death or the Grim Reaper. Well, this was basically the Viking equivalent. She appears to you as an old woman when it is time, when it's your time to die. She's not evil or malicious, which only adds to the fear she struck into the Viking hearts. Pester simply delivers the news of death and then shepherds your soul away. You cannot run. Some describe her as a disease that was impossible to keep out. She would appear anywhere, but especially on roads as people traveled. If you see Pester, make sure you check what she is carrying in her hand. If she is carrying a rake, that means not everyone in your family will die. Not everyone in your family will die. Your souls will be able to escape through the teeth of the rake. If she's carrying a broom, well, everyone is doomed to be swept away. On one occasion, don't laugh. This is fucking terrifying stuff. On one
It's all
occasion,
made up, man. I don't know
no,
where the fuck they got that
on one occasion, a man begged her to spare his life. She said, but she would give him an easy death. That night, he went home exhausted and fell asleep, never to wake up again. This is what scares people the most. There is no fight, there is no battle against evil. Pester simply delivers your inevitable death.
Great story,
Yeah.
man.
Is she real?
Nothing Viking Age about it whatsoever. This sounds like sort of like a mix of a bunch of sort of folktale stuff that has to do with the Black Death.
Mm.
And the word itself also in Scandinavian means the Black Death. So
Mm.
yeah, this is somebody who came up with a nice little story.
So, how do you think that gets pulled back to Vikings? Just
Oh, because people just want to attach stuff to Vikings because
because
it's cool.
I assume the person that's written this article, they've not made that up. I guess that they've Googled the Pester and somehow I'm going to do that
Mm-hmm.
after actually just to see what I find. But I assume at some point it's been linked to the Viking Age.
Yeah, I guess so. But that's just people's fantasies.
Mhm.
So yeah. But now I
Okay,
have to go pick up my kid, man.
you you have to get out of here. You let people know where they can find you, and I'll do the rest of the plugs and you get out
Yeah,
of
you
here.
can always find me on my website, matthiasnorvig.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Matthias Norvig, and then I'll show up there.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us, everybody, and see you later.
Take care. Take care.
You too.
Yeah, thank you. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star rating, positive review wherever you listen to the podcast. Obviously, this is a shorter one than normal, but we kind of had to put something together at last minute. Thought we'd have a little bit of fun with the article, even if most of it's not real. I guess there's a bunch of it that's quite entertaining. I mean, the horse is terrifying. I wouldn't want to meet that down a dark alley. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you can, please support us on Patreon. Again, I think we're 3-4 episodes ahead on there. So if you listen to this and you want more, you can jump over onto Patreon and get the next 3 or 4 episodes before everyone else. You get the video versions of them as well. We're going to start doing the story time episodes again with Jonas Lorentzen. We've booked that in. He's going to be coming back on the podcast as well. I think Ed Games has just booked to come back on, and Joshua Root. So all the favorites we haven't had on in a while, all are coming back on in the next couple of months. So that's going to be good fun. It's always chaos when Ed joins us. So that will always be it's always be a laugh. That man is one of my favorite humans on the planet, but he is erratic to say the least. Yes, if you can, please pop over to Patreon. You get all the old story times. I think it's like £3 or £4 a month for the lowest tier. You can also watch the episodes live. We have a lovely little community in the chat where people hang out and talk during the episodes. It's really nice to see. Sometimes you just see me chuckling at the chat because it makes me laugh. And yeah, so you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We've been putting a bunch of videos up on there, literally Nordic Mythology podcast on there. Hit the subscribe and the little bell so you know every time we drop a video. And I think that's about it. We will see you next Tuesday. I'm not sure who we've got, but I know we will have hopefully we'll have a guest that doesn't cancel. Yeah, thank you very much and take care.